And then,
And by the way, he would like to appear on this show.
well, we'll have to think about that.
Well, he's
too.
the first one.
First one, yeah.
Yes.
That's good. And Geraldine Levi, I understand, our delegate,
Jerron Levi.
Jerron,
Yeah.
is going to run for county executive.
Yeah, I don't know what prompted her to do that, but
That's three.
oh, there are others. That guy from South Bowie that was on Dean,
Dean?
Not Howard. Samuel Dean, is that his name?
Right.
Who doesn't particularly care for Bowie and never returns phone calls or anything else. He wants to be our county executive too.
That's right.
I don't think he has a prayer's chance.
I don't think so, but it seems like that if you look at it, the equation where Ruth Shern's run before,
Yeah.
I think he did a good job before.
Well, except his campaign was pretty bad.
Yeah, and he's a good candidate. No doubt the sheriff has garnered votes in his.
Well, he ran a good campaign for sheriff. I have to give him credit for that.
I think he's in his second term, right?
I think so.
Sure.
Yeah, I think so.
And you know, it's interesting. I was in Dunkirk a couple years ago, and the sheriff that was so long in Bowie was there, or in Prince George County. I can't think of his name, but his father was in politics as well before him in Prince George.
You're talking about
Aloisi.
Aloisi.
Yeah. But it was good to see him, and he hadn't changed a bit then.
You know, the thing with me, Bert, in all honesty, I don't see the need for sheriff's department. Maybe when the sheriff comes on, he can justify its existence. But we have a major police department. Mm-hmm. You know, communities either have a sheriff's department or they have a police department. I just don't understand why we have to have both, especially when the county is in horrible financial straits.
Yeah, that's a good question to ask.
It really is, yeah.
But you're right. The only time they overlap, though, is they do overlap some, no doubt. But,
well, I've seen the sheriff's department making drug raids.
Yeah, that's right. Well, that's an overlap there.
That's a big overlap, yeah.
And then, then the majority of them spend most of their time serving warrants.
Yeah, yeah.
And
that could be farmed out to some.
There's some of it already farmed out.
Is there?
Okay.
Okay.
And there's a group, I think, that works multi-county, or jurisdiction, you might say, that apparently, according to, there was a captain of the sheriff's department on one of our producers' programs on this channel just recently, and he talked about that.
I saw that briefly.
That's where I remembered they mentioned that. Cooperation between, they share, I think, some of the internet data, whatever. In other words, if someone is, and they have certain restrictions on where they can arrest them. If someone on a certain kind of charge in Prince George, you can arrest them, but if they're in Virginia, a Virginia person pulls them over for a speeding ticket and they find there's a warrant in Prince Georgia, got to be a certain degree of violation for them to be able to arrest them.
Oh, okay.
So that's part of his explanation.
But you know, Bert, as I said, the county's financial situation is pretty dire. And, you know, the sheriff's department either could be trimmed down greatly or eliminated. And then these staff members, these people on the county council have, is absolutely ridiculous, absurd.
Well,
and the county executive staff and all these bureaucrats down in Upper Marlboro, what they do, I have no idea. It's just too much. They're going to have to trim.
Sure. Well, the first county executive candidate that tells me that where they'll start is in their own office,
yeah,
you're going to get my vote.
You got that right.
Because it's just like in a lot of areas.
Well, at least the county executive, Johnson, has stopped making his international business trips.
Right.
I'd like to know how much money those yielded for Prince George's County.
Well, and you know, I wonder too, because we should invite the Economic Development Director on here to give us some facts and figures of how much, and there are some things that I've heard as a result of a trip has happened, like somebody put an office in Prince George or whatever.
An office, period. That's where it ends.
One employee. And they're mostly working in Washington when they did that.
I like the place that he visited recently in Africa, where it's best known for the trafficking of human beings. Now that's are we going to get into that?
Boy, no, I don't think we will. You know, the candidates now, we've got at least that many for the county executive.
Yeah, I've lost count of how many are. And then, of course, there's the possibilities thereof. Yeah.
There might be, but I haven't heard anything about our delegate election or our senator from this area. I haven't heard anything about
well,
who
Steny
might be
Hoyer
running.
is running.
Well, definitely Steny, we know. Kind of
I heard through the grapevine that there's power play going on between at least one candidate for county executive and our state senator about who's going to be on whose ticket and who's going to support somebody else and blah, blah. You know, the usual. Yep. It always resorts to this. Yep. It always resorts to this. Yep. Geraldine is of course the candidate to replace John Levy.
Right.
And then I'm sure the Hubbard will run again.
Probably Holmes. That'll be the third.
Well, he's in 23B, yeah.
23B.
He will. And this, I've heard rumors, and it's still at this point rumors, that there are a couple of other people who want to run for that seat vacated by Delegate Levy. We shall see. We shall see what happens. If nothing else, our elections are good for a laugh and give us ample fodder
That's right.
to pass on those laughs.
Yeah, right, John. And because we've got this is what I kind of believe an off year, but not a presidential year.
Right.
And there's a lot of things happen in those off years. It's not influenced by the national activity. I've noticed over the years. Timing is everything, in my opinion, in politics, quite frankly. And I could give you, if I were a writer like you, I'd write a book about it. Yeah. Because you can time after time after again.
Well, and there are predictable things. Now, we will have Bobby Henry, whose qualifications for the office elude me, but he appears every 4 years at 450 and 197 waving his signs. He loses, and then 4 years later he's back there waving his sign again.
So he might be a candidate against Doug Peters.
Well, that's what I've heard.
Yeah, well, that's a possibility. And on the others, you've heard some rumors about some others for the delegate race.
Yeah, I have.
Not just Levi's position.
But ironically, the ones that I've heard about have absolutely no name recognition in the community.
Yeah, and that's the difficult thing to do in the short term.
It sure is.
So, and of course...
And they better take some vitamin pills if they're going to campaign against Geraldine.
That's right, because she is very energetic and does well. Interesting thing, I think, too, about some of the goings-on in the state, and we had Audrey Scott right after Steny Hoyer on the show that you interviewed. And anyone that knows Audrey from the city, she may not have been their favorite, but she always was very energetic. And in her campaign...
Oh, she was energetic.
And she did well. She won 2 terms in
She did a very good job on the county council, even though, you know, she had a tendency to be rather partisan at times. But you compare her with the person that's there now, there's a world of difference. I mean, it's no comparison whatsoever. She did a decent job. As a matter of fact, I almost long for Richard Castaldi, to be back down there after this one.
I know. Well, you know, and the thing we've always talked about, and we still are looking for it, John, is the cooperation between the city and county.
Yeah, it doesn't exist right now. It doesn't exist.
No. And that is, to me, a barometer of really what is happening.
The city is trying very desperately to get some sort of arrangement in order to have some control over development and zoning in the city of Bowie. Park and Planning Commission, of course, all they want is our money. They don't want to cooperate. And they get no cooperation from the Office of the County Executive or the County Council. And it's, you know, it's almost a losing battle.
You're right. And, well, that strikes a point, too. The Park and Planning Commission, it seems to be everything I've heard about in the last 2 or 3 years. There's some warring hostilities.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Between Prince George's and Montgomery County.
Yeah.
And I've never quite understood why that could. I don't care about who they are. It's an obligation and responsibility to people that put you there. Yeah. And I know their appointments, but they serve the community.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Can you name the person who represents Bowie in the Park and Planning Commission? I can't either. I used to know in the old days.
I don't. Someone said there was a person on the Board of Education that lives off Church Road,